Hey, Chris. You there? Hello, 310-961-0602.
Hey, hold on a second. I'll dial back in. I put in the participant ID wrong.
Okay. Hey, Jillian. Hey, Chris. Oh, Chris is still trying to connect. You there? Who's there?
All right.
Anybody hear me? You there finally, Chris?
Yeah, I'm on. Thanks. Sorry about that.
Jillian, can you hear me? Okay.
She's on mute.
There we go. Now you guys should be able to hear me.
Yep, I can hear you.
Sweet.
Okay. Hopefully, someone else will show up. I know that one person said he couldn't show up.
I guess the most important question, Greg, is did you get your ammunition?
Yes, I did.
All right, good.
Well, at least enough for now. 150 rounds, so probably. Since nowhere, it's too wet and cold to go out shooting right now, so it'll last me at least until early summer, maybe.
There you go. Stock up.
But I'm not gonna waste it until I know that there's a better supply coming up.
Rationing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So it looks like we have a CTF coming up that we're going to do on VLab.
Yeah, I was just going to go over that to make sure that see if there's any questions about what was expected of you and that sort of thing.
Is that the same one that Jen Riley sent out, or did that just go to me? There's like one that was like sponsored by Target. The might have just been the women in
You know what's a
cybersecurity.
special one? Professor Riley sent you a special capture the flag thing. I see how it is. She didn't send that to me.
Well, I mean, like, if you want to identify as a woman, I'm sure that you would be able to join too, Chris.
Yeah, it's like the
What class is that you're talking about?
So let me pull it up in my email. She sent me this cool thing because I did it. So after the first week's discussion board that I was late on, but I went back and I did it, and it was actually really interesting to me. So I had a Zoom call with her to kind of talk about what I said in the discussion board and some other things. And then she said that she had sent out a thing. Here we go. So gamified cyber challenge experience made possible by Target. Oh yeah, okay, this is from Women in Cybersecurity. Okay, yeah, so Chris, I don't think you would have gotten this one.
It sounds just like an information thing that she sent along to you. No, what Chris is talking about is the assignment due, well, one of the assignments due this week. I'm going to share my screen. Looks like you two are the only ones here, but I wasn't planning on spending a lot of time today anyway, but you two will have a leg up on those that missed it. All right, so you can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, so this is the assignment that you're talking about, Chris, right?
Yep.
So what I plan to do, and I don't know if I'll have one every week because they'll get harder, more difficult as we go along, and you know, also more difficult for me to set up as we go along. And some of them might take you, you know, eventually, you know, once we get past this third or fourth one, it'll probably take you some time to solve them. But basically, capture the flag exercises or assignments are they're challenges. They basically they're a common competition thing in cybersecurity where you use various skills and various programs to find out information about the network or about computers, and then try to find some entryway into a computer that maybe, you know, a careless network administrator left the default set up or did something that, you know, allowed the system to be vulnerable. So this first one uses FTP. So you're going to use command line FTP. I'll just kind of open it and go over what the instructions are. So you're going to use your Windows 10 virtual machine on VLab. And I'll actually open that up. Have either of you read this assignment yet?
Not
I
yet.
just browsed it quickly.
Okay. So let me bring up the instructor Windows 10.
So is ZenMap like some third-party thing that kind of gives a tutorial on using FTP or something?
Nmap?
Yeah.
No, Nmap is a scanning program.
No, yeah, the ZenMap. It says this page on using Zen.
ZenMap is here. I'll show it to you. So this is, close it out. So we installed ZenMap on your Windows 10 virtual machines on VLab. And basically, ZenMap is just a GUI front end Nmap, which is a command line program. So you're familiar with that. If you took Security Plus, then you're familiar with Nmap. So this is just a GUI front end to make things a little bit easier to start out with. Eventually, I'll have you, you know, use the command line Nmap on the Kali machines. But you know, why try to memorize and make a bunch of typos in a command when you've got a GUI front end? So what your goal is going to be is to I'll bring the instructions up again. Okay, so I give you a little bit of a link to some real quick tutorial on using ZenMap and also FTP. These are just pages that I wrote, and gives you basically an idea of what you should be entering. You can use something besides what I recommend, which is a quick scan, but if you enter like an intense scan or something like that, you'll get so much more information than you need for the purposes of this assignment, that I don't recommend it, because a lot of times if there's too much information, you don't even know what you're looking at or where to start. So the quick scan gives you what you need, and really not much more than that. So the first instruction says to use the ZenMap tool to scan your subnet. So first question should be, what's my subnet, right? So how do you find out what your subnet is? How do you find out what subnet you're on?
I forget which command line command it is.
Well, it's
ipconfig or something?
Yeah, ipconfig or anything that tells you what your network address is. ipconfig is good, or you could go to the GUI. In Windows, click here and go to your network and find eventually where it tells you your IP address information. So once and this doesn't even tell you your subnet mask. So, oh yeah, here it does. Yeah, so there's your IP address, and your subnet mask is a /24, or you just do ipconfig, right? And that gives you your IP address and your subnet mask, which will also tell you your prefix value, which in this case is 24. So that's the first thing. The first step is to find out what your subnet is, and everyone should know how to do that pretty easily by now. And then when you do your scan, and I'm not going to go through this because I don't want to give too much away, but when you do your scan, the goal in this assignment is to find the address or a host name, because I think it'll probably tell you both. But either way, you can use either the address or the host name that has the FTP service running. So ZenMap will give you a pretty clear indication of what services are running on all of the computers that it finds. So there should be one, I think. I don't think there's more than one. But if there is, you may need to, try multiple machines. I think in this case, I made it so there's only one, so it should be pretty quick or easy to find which one. So you find the address or and the host name of a computer that's got the FTP service running, and then you use command line FTP to access that particular computer's FTP service. So command line FTP is it's run like any other command line program. You open up a command prompt and say FTP, and then the name or the IP address. So if the IP address was 172.168.1.55, which it's not, then that's how you would try to connect with that FTP server. Once you're connected to FTP, should have had another.
Won't we need a user and a pass, or no?
What's that?
Will we need a user and a password to get a connection established?
Well, I give you a hint here. So if you haven't already, it might be a good time to read the page on using command line FTP. So let's take a look at that. So that's how you use it. The syntax is just FTP and the address or the host name. And it should give you a login prompt. And so, yes, you're going to need a valid username or password. However, FTP has servers have a configuration option called anonymous login. And there's two ways that you can anonymously log into an FTP server. One is I give you, look in the help of FTP, and the other is, you can probably do a real quick search on Google and find out how to anonymously log into an FTP server. Or like I said, the help screen on FTP, if you read it, you'll see what you're supposed to do.
What's the purpose behind the anonymous access?
The purpose is basically a public file repository.
Okay.
Just
Something
like,
that's meant to be open to everybody.
Yeah, just like right now, nowadays, no one, well, I won't say no one. You might find FTP available. Actually, I shouldn't say, my publisher was using FTP as a means to transfer transcripts or manuscripts up until just like a year ago. Now, they didn't use anonymous login, but as you should know, FTP is not a very secure protocol.
Yeah.
So, along with some others that, that you're going to exploit the fact that some of these other older protocols are not secure in the next one.
I guess if it's not secure, it doesn't matter whether you need a username or password anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a modicum of security with the username and password, but the insecure part about it is that it's easy to capture those usernames and passwords because they're transmitted in plain text across the network. And you'll use that fact in the next CTF activity. But anyway, once you get in successfully to the FTP server, then you can use the question mark to see commands. Anyway, I give you an idea of the commands that you're going to use. If you're going to have to know how to use a little bit of command line window, or DOS, whatever, Windows command line to get around the directory, to get around the file system. But the bottom line is, and this link here, has a whole bunch of Windows command prompt commands and how to navigate the file system if you don't know how to do that by now, which you should, because if you're going to be in cybersecurity, you are going to be doing most everything by command line. At least, let's say the part where you're doing, simulating penetration testing or vulnerability assessment. Now there are GUI tools, obviously, but if you want to call yourself a seasoned pen tester, then it's all command line. I don't call myself a seasoned pen tester, but I do know the command line pretty good, at least the Windows command line, and so for Linux.
Well, and the more you use it, the more you remember.
You gotta use it. So you'll be using it in the next capture the flag. But bottom line here is that there are two files that are on this FTP server that your job is to find them and get them onto your computer and then upload them to the site. They're basically, I mean, it even says, this is the FTP page. I'll go back to the assignment. It says you're looking for files with the word flag in them. Two of them. So and it tells you one of them is pretty much in plain sight, the other's hiding from you. So I'm giving you all kinds of hints of how to go about doing this. Brendan did it in, about 5 minutes. So even,
He's a genius, though.
that somebody with only a little more experience than you guys was able to do it pretty quickly. And he was a command line total newbie when I hired him. When I hired him, he didn't know how to even change directory.
It was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. I was shocked at how poor he was at the command line. Now he's getting pretty good, slowly but surely. So so that's the first one. So that's your job, is to figure out how to get in. First find the FTP server, figure out how to log into it, and then find those files.
Jill already did it. That's why she's been so quiet. She's just been handling it.
No, I'm eating salad.
So, Greg, when we're doing this, we're actually downloading the files from the VM. I think that normally in the past I've done like screenshots and stuff like that. Is there some type of file transfer, or you just want us to like jump on like some internet medium and get the files to us somehow from the virtual side?
Oh, you mean to get them off the virtual machine?
Yeah. I always thought the virtual machine was kind of a test tube. Like, I don't know what I want to download from that onto my machine anyway.
Yeah, well, that's actually a good point.
Can we just download them onto the virtual machine, then take a screen cap of them downloaded on the virtual machine?
From the virtual machine.
What's the file?
Yeah, I really kind of want the file. From the virtual machine, you can actually open up, at least I think, open up Canvas and everything and log in. And
we could like email it to you from an email server.
Yeah, probably not.
Then you'd have a virus from the virtual machine email server.
Yeah, you actually from the.
That's true. We can just open up a internet browser and just upload them through the virtual machine. You can go to Canvas and do that. I've done that before.
Yeah, I've got the virtual machines pretty locked down, but they can get out via HTTP, as you can see. So you should be able to, unless there's. I'm
just wondering the best way to do it.
You can log in from your virtual machine into Canvas and submit the assignment that way. I'll see about. There's one other server that there's one server on our network. Yeah, but once you get on that server, it doesn't help you much.
You could drop it on a shared drive in a folder with our name on it.
Yeah. Thing is, I don't want to have to go looking around and. I'd rather you just upload the file. So like I said, you should be able to
figure it out
from your virtual machine into Canvas and access the assignment that way. Because there isn't an easy way to get files from a virtual machine to your physical computer. There is, if it was VMware Workstation, you can actually drag and drop files and stuff like that. But ESX Server, which is what these VMs are running on, is a little bit more tied down than VMware Workstation. So I would say I'll probably have to make a note of that in the instructions, that you'll need to open a browser on your virtual machine, log into YC and Canvas, and upload the files that way.
Sounds good.
If for some reason that fails, which it doesn't look like it would, but then Jillian, take a screenshot showing the files and upload the screenshot to the site.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that's pretty much the main thing. I'll just real quick show you the next one. I had Brendan do it. He just did it a little while ago. The next one is going to take a little more thought and a little more perseverance. But in this one, you're going to use your Wireshark packet capturing skills. And so again, this is next week, the end of week 4. So again, you're going to do the same thing with ZenMap, only now you're looking for that
Telnet.
Yeah, hold on. I'm just, you actually don't need ZenMap in this case. It won't hurt. But you don't actually have to use ZenMap, since I'm telling you you're to capture Telnet packets. So, like I said, Telnet and FTP are both considered non-secure protocols. That's because they send their credentials in plain text. And so in the second one, Telnet there's no anonymous login with Telnet, all right? So you can Telnet to a particular IP address, but it's going to give you a login prompt. Unless you know what that username and password is, you're not going to get there. And that's where Wireshark comes in. So you're going to basically capture, open up Wireshark. Yeah, I'll show you, because I think.
So we're going to capture somebody else's traffic so we can see them logging in, then use their user and pass to get in later.
That's exactly right. So I've got Wireshark here. I'm going to dismiss this. So the first thing you got to do when you're on Wireshark is select the correct interface to capture. I do have a Zoom scheduled for next week, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to end up doing it or not. Probably, because this one might need a little more explanation. So you got to make sure you capture Ethernet 0, because all these are basically kind of pseudo interfaces that won't help you much. So you got to capture Ethernet 0. If you were ever needed to find out what your interface names are, you just open up change adapter options, and it says right there Ethernet 0. Okay, so that's how that's your physical, or let's say your real interface, and that's what Wireshark would be able to capture packets on. So I select that, and then you could capture everything, or you could enter a capture filter, which is a little bit more targeted. I would recommend that you use a filter. I link to a place where you can learn about capture filters in the instructions. So TCP port 23 is Telnet. So I'm just going to sit here and wait for some Telnet packets to come along. If somebody is out there, and the little birdie, and according to the instructions, the little bird told you that someone is frequently accessing a Windows server using Telnet. So if I knew that and I wanted to find out some credentials, I would just set up a Wireshark capture session and see if I get any Telnet activity. And holler, what do you know? I get some Telnet activity. So from here, I need to leave it up to you. That's because, just to let you guys know, since you were both in the Python program, the Python course.
Yeah.
So what's doing this Telnet is every 2 minutes I've got a Python script running on one of these other computers in this target network. I've got a Python script that wakes up every 2 minutes and tries to telnet and log into this server. So that way I didn't have to like tell everybody, well, you got to be here at this time on this day, and I'm going to try to telnet in. So I just use Python to just, it's running all the time. Every 2 minutes it tries to telnet, and it sends its credentials as part of the telnet. So it's up to you to take a look at what's in Wireshark and find out the IP address of the server that's being telnetted, and find the credentials that are being sent. And once you find that information, then you'll be able to telnet to the target machine, and you'll be able to log in using the credentials you found, and
Find the flag.
Find flags. I should probably tell you, it says see what you can find. Oh, it does eventually say two flag files. So in this case, instead of sending me the flag files, I'm having you in this assignment send me the credentials you used to access the server and the contents of the 2 flag files. So instead of uploading files, it's a text entry box in this next assignment. So
right. So for practical purposes, like when Jillian's getting into the Pentagon system and she's getting into, she's Wiresharking it. What's like the time frame on the PCAP or on the file, that the information, the data that you're catching? Like if we didn't know that something was going to come up in 2 minutes, would we just leave something open on Wireshark for 6 days and then go in and parse through all the data to find what we needed to find?
yeah, if you had access to a network where you could Wireshark and you knew that there was sensitive information flying around the network, then that's exactly what you would do. It would be a whole lot more information to sift through, because I'm obviously spoon feeding a little bit by telling you what you're looking for to a large extent, but
When you have that
you
much
gotta learn.
information,
You just go out there and
That's
see
what
what you can
Python's for.
find. I'm not going to tell you to just go see if you can find information on the network, at least not yet. Eventually, it'll get a little bit more where you're gonna scan the network and just see what ports are open, and you're gonna, see what you can find, and you may not find anything on the first computer or the second, and it might take you a while to find.
That's gonna suck. That's gonna be hours.
yeah, when you have that much information to go through, is there like a software program that can kind of scale that down a little bit, or is that just something that you're going to have to go through manually?
Probably people that do this kind of thing for a living, they write their own, or there might be stuff out there. Well, there is stuff out there that will monitor your monitor your network to see, maybe look for stuff on the network that shouldn't be there, like credentials and things like that. But a lot of penetration testing, or the black hat part of it, hacking, is a lot of drudgery, hard, boring work until you actually find something. So initially, we're starting baby steps, because I wouldn't, if somebody just told me go out there and try to do and try to find something, I would have no idea where to start. But that's what some of these capture the flag real competitions, where you're competing against dozens or even hundreds of other people. That's what they are. They're basically, we're not going to tell you anything. You go out there and use the tools, and they'll tell you maybe what you're looking for, but they won't tell you where and what service. to try to exploit or anything like that. That's where you use the tools available to you to see what is vulnerable that's out
Now, if you had a bunch of data that you collected, though, you had talked about using Python to get through like blobs of data and stuff like that. Is that, I mean,
well, I mean, you can use, yeah, you could get data into a format if you knew sort of a little bit of what the data looked like. You could get it into a format and use Python and other tools to search for stuff so that you're not, manually going over things. So, for example, even with Wireshark, you could capture data for days or weeks or hours or whatever it is that what your time window you think is, and then save the capture, and then use a search tool to find patterns or look for protocols that are potentially vulnerable and things like that. In this case, if you use it, since you're looking for telnet, and if you use a telnet
search for the port
filter, telnet filter in Wireshark, then all you'll see is the telnet related stuff. If you don't use a telnet filter in Wireshark, then you'll get a bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with what you're looking for, and you'll have to sift through it a lot more. So, so using a filter is one of those tools to start with. In real life, if you were capturing and you got, you weren't sure what you're looking for, and you got tens of thousands of packets, you would probably either use some sort of tool to do a search again for maybe port numbers or possibly application layer, because Wireshark will tell you the application layer stuff. And then you would, once you find that in the tens of thousands of packets, then you'd use Wireshark to say, okay, only restrict the view of my packets to only packets involved in this conversation. And then it'll do that. There's lots of built-in stuff in Wireshark where you probably don't even need a third-party tool.
Nice, thanks.
All right, so anyway, this one's due, a week, next week, not this week. The first one is the first one we do this week. So, like I said, in this assignment, the first flag is pretty easy to get as long as you can navigate a DOS command line, and as long as you can follow the instructions for using FTP. The other one will take just a little bit of intuition, or follow the hints that I give you in the assignment instructions, and also in the FTP instructions.
Jen Riley had us do a little bit of capture the flag stuff. I forget where it was out of, but it was helpful because it got you into typing in your command line stuff and practicing it.
Initially, I was going to go and download these virtual machines that are used in capture the flag challenges and competitions, and they were just so complex that I was like, people are going to get discouraged if we start off with this. So I decided it's much easier if I create my own, because I can give you pretty succinct instructions without giving the store away, and then slowly but surely lead up to more difficult challenges. So probably most of them, if not all of them, will be ones that I create for the purpose of sort of like making them more and more difficult. I might, towards the end, if I find some suitable virtual machines that have vulnerabilities and that have have used for capture the flag activities. I might end up using some of those towards the end when you've gotten used to doing this a little bit more. Because some of the ones that I've looked at literally take hours and hours to try to figure out, and I didn't think that was a good way to start.
The only other thing that I'd be interested in at some point, and I don't even know if it'll come up in this course or whatever, but just kind of food for thought, would be a little bit more experience with like a SEAM dashboard or something like that. Something that might be more like a security professional and
Are we gonna get hands-on experience with like SEAM technology or like SEAM related platforms?
That's probably not what this class focuses on. I'll see about whether, I know it's mentioned in here, it's discussed here and there, but in the book, probably the course that would deal with that more would be the cyber ops course.
Right, which we took.
Oh,
yeah.
You already took that? I thought that
I took CNT275. I was just saying it because obviously you're designing some of this stuff off the cuff, and also if there are any just third-party things that you come across that you go, oh, here's a tutorial or here's some information that might be of interest, then I'd be interested in it.
Okay. All right, yeah, and these capture the flag assignments, and they might be something else besides capture the flag in some cases. In some cases, they'll be broken up into parts where, first thing you do is find out the information you need, and then the second part will be actually using that information. But these aren't intended to like follow what each chapter of the book is going over, because it's sort of too spread out what's in the book. And so these are just going to be, start easy, I think, easy, and get progressively harder. In some cases, of course, the information will coincide with something that you're doing, that the informations or topics in the book, or something that's already been covered in the book. In some cases, it'll it'll cover topics that aren't in the book at all, or haven't been covered. But I found it was going to be too difficult to try to align things perfectly with the book. So most of the stuff you've done, worked with in one way or another in other classes. So very little of it, at least as of now, should be unfamiliar. Like using Wireshark, like using Telnet. You Telneted in Cisco classes to, manage your servers. I don't know how many people have used command line FTP, but it's a pretty basic command line program. Much easier than most like Linux based Nmap, things like that. So, all right. Any other questions?
Yeah. So are we gonna go over in this course anything about like data policies, or like how that would apply to like companies and stuff like that, like data rights?
Like, I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. So like I'm really interested in how companies handle data, and the fact that there's so much wrong with how companies are handling data. And I was wondering if that would be something that would be touched on in this course, or if there would be another course for that specifically.
Are you talking about just like what their policies are with how
That would be part of it. Yeah, that's part of what I'm interested in.
You're talking about like legal stuff, like ad tracking and things like that,
Yeah.
Jillian, or?
Yes.
I mean, there's
so kind of like how
why and how my data is being used on these sites and what I can do about it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be information about policies for protecting data. As you know, obviously there's policies in some companies about uh, not being able to use USB sticks because people can take documents home on USB sticks, which may be confidential information. Obviously, there's policies about authentication, um, what computers you can use to access corporate information. Some companies don't let you use your home laptop to access the company VPN.
So where would I learn how companies are allowed to use data?
Like specific
And
companies?
any company, and like why they're allowed to use data this way, even though it may be ethically wrong the way that they're using it, and what an average person like me can
So
do
you're
about
talking
that.
about how companies use your data.
Yeah. And anybody's, yeah, really. And just the fact that I feel like policies have been whatted since the internet really took off. It was just took off too fast, and policies didn't really evolve with the internet. I feel like that's
Some of
just something that's being taken advantage of, and I would like to learn
that
more about it.
is talked about in just about even the introductory classes like HIPAA for health information policies. I mean, there's probably a few thousand pages, if I doubt that's exaggerating, of HIPAA policies, and then there's like FERPA for educational institutions. So, and those types of policies have been discussed, at least maybe not in detail of what's contained in them, but certainly the laws have been discussed in several courses. Certainly, Security Plus talks about them. I don't know about whether CyberOps does, but so there's industry specific policies on what companies can do with data and how they're supposed to protect it, including educational institutions like ours. All you got to do is look up FERPA or HIPAA, and you'll learn at least about those two industries, the health industry and the education industry.
I
But we're
did a
not.
little bit of research into it this week, and I saw that one of the main reasons why companies kind of get away with selling large amounts of like data and stuff is because they just say that it's metadata.
That
That
is
still doesn't
part
sit
of
right with me.
it, and part of it is also um, everyone accepts a agreement at some point,
Yeah.
Exactly.
and
And
that
that's
agreement
what I don't
usually
like.
involves that agreement usually involves their right to work with third parties for blah blah blah, some legalese crap. That basically is a very clever way of saying we can sell them your data to data mine you, and that's what you're agreeing to. And
So why is that allowed?
because
Why are they allowed to put that in their policies in the first
okay.
place?
If, if you have you ever read any of those
Those things that you've accepted.
Exactly. Well, actually, I have, and that's why I'm
Yeah.
getting like very frustrated with how the internet is being run. Is because basically, if you make a living off something on the internet, off a platform, and that platform says, "Oh, hey, we're changing our policies, and we don't want you on here anymore," they can basically take your livelihood, your income, and kick you off the platform. And I just don't see how that would be
right?
allowed.
Like censorship?
Now that
Yeah, exactly. Internet censorship. And
Yeah, that's
that
a
was
big
goes
problem
back
right
to the
now.
first discussion we kind of had in this class where I kind of went off on. I don't know if any of you saw my
not really.
posts. I called both of you out a little bit in my response to your discussions. I know
Yeah.
Chris, especially, I called you out because I do not think a centralized internet authority would be a good idea ever for any reason.
Well, I mean, what's going on right now with the internet censorship is essentially, at least in my opinion, discrimination
Straight
But
up. So how is that allowed if
it's
it's
not discrimination
Google? It's
based on race, sex, creed, national origin, which are usually the ones that are in the
you're discriminating off of occupation.
off of political affiliation.
Exactly, both.
But there isn't any law specifically about discriminating against someone based on their political affiliation, at least that I'm aware of. So they can get away with it with impunity, and they've got a big sector of the people that control the information on their side when they're doing this censorship, i.e. the press. So yeah, if you got the press on your side, you can get away with everything and anything. That is a
Like suppression.
very good lesson to what's going on now. If you have the press on your side, you can do anything and you will probably not be held accountable unless, millions of people are dying because of it. And even then, I'm not so sure that you'd be held accountable.
I just caught your post, Joanne, but I don't remember if I said that I wanted a centralized authority. But
I don't think you said that specifically, but you were wondering why there wasn't one, or like some sort of policing of the internet. And I actually talked to Jen Riley about it, and she said that these rogue people that go and hack this stuff actually do a lot of damage, and they shouldn't be the ones to just go out and do their hacktivism. That can actually be very dangerous. But also we do need a middleman in there that does represent like the average person, because as we have seen, companies are always looking for ways to profit and not protect.
Yeah. But see, nobody wanted the internet to be regulated by the government, and that's because the government usually is the one to overreach. I don't think a lot of people foresaw that the Facebooks and the Twitters and the YouTubes of the world would essentially become more powerful than the government.
Exactly.
So I don't think, those platforms started as free speech platforms. You can disseminate whatever information you want here, and as long as it's within the law. And now that's not the case. They've become worse than what the government would do if it was, let's say, the
exactly, and nobody's paying attention to it. Nobody really cares because it doesn't affect the average person yet.
And it's because they're censoring the right people from the.
Well, and they gave the free model. So the free model is out there for, it's like free trading now with the Robinhood thing and people,
oh, God.
trading stocks. And they're like, well, why, how can they shut me down? Let me trade. Well, they can shut you down because it's their platform and you got an account with them. And so, you got a free account and they're allowed to shut you down. So if you don't like them, then you go to somebody else. But if you don't like Wall Street, then don't play with Wall Street. So the same thing.
But you
Facebook,
have every right to play with Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
That's just very.
But Wall Street is set up with certain players who have certain control, similarly to how Facebook and their these other platforms. It's like you're a member of the platform. It's not like being a member of the internet. If you want to create another platform, I guess, then we go do that, and others have. It's just how's the adoption going to be there? Some of the power that the current social media guys have is because they had the early adoption and they have more people on there. So it's a complicated. All of it's complicated.
So, question for you guys: do you guys think that we'll ever actually see key cards to log on to the internet in our lifetime?
Oh, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, I could.
It's gotten worse.
I wouldn't rule anything out at this point.
Yeah, it's gotten worse than what you're suggesting. You can't just move to another platform now because the cloud has become the platform.
Exactly. Jen Riley told me about that.
Is now controlled by a few of these companies. They're
Amazon, Google.
Google, yeah.
Google and Microsoft to a lesser extent.
They're
And,
monopolies.
and so if you can't run your social
Platform on a web service. Right.
if you can't run it on AWS or Google servers, then you have a distinct disadvantage against any competitor, because now you have to build your own data center. That's what I think Gab is doing. They're trying to run their own data center because
Yeah, she told me about Gab, Telegram. There's some other like sites that tried to make like a safe environment on the internet, and they were basically censored by Google. And when you would go to search for these new sites, they would put them on like the 4th result page. And who goes to even the 2nd page of Google? Nobody.
No, that's right. So, well, Google's been using their search engine to skew results for
Everybody's Google is different.
But now it's gotten worse because of the cloud. The cloud is really, everyone's platform is in the cloud, and now the cloud can say whether they're going to allow you to be there or not. I mean, that's Parler got kicked off of AWS, and they're gone. They're history.
Yeah, that was surprising.
And
if I would want to work to kind of revolutionize this, what direction do you think I should go? More into the cybersecurity realm, or more into like cloud security and cloud computing and engineering?
Law.
No, that's right. I was going to say go and legislation.
I want to build my own. I'm mad and I'm done with all of this and all of these companies that think that they can just get away with things that are mine.
Oh, to like build your own platform, like another option?
I've been really looking into that, and it's obviously not, it's going to take like a long time, but that's something that I'm prepared for.
Yeah.
I already spent like 3 years in school, so if I have to spend 12 more, applying this, then I'm fine. I would like to do that.
There's really plenty of niches for what you're talking about. I mean, if you want to help, let's say, fight the monsters out there, the Amazon, the AWSs and the Googles and the Twitters out there, any company or any organization that wants to, that's like-minded is going to need people of all skills, as skills in cybersecurity, in network administration, in law, like Chris said, in
so I need to start collecting people.
Well, you need to decide what it is that you like to do, and that's what you should focus, because that's what you're going to get. That's what you'll end up getting really good at, is what you like to do. So, you might say, well, the best way for me to impact something is to go out and do this. But if you don't like to do that, you'll never really get good enough at it to help anybody. So I would focus on, at this point, what am I interested in doing? What do I like to do, so that I'm likely to get very, very good at, and then use those skills that you get very, very good at.
I do know this is my favorite class I've taken so far.
What's that?
This is definitely my favorite class I've taken so far. And I'm only like...
No catching up to the professor this early in the class, Joey.
All right, well, I gotta go. So, Sean, I'm afraid you missed most of the beginning of the discussion, which was focused on the capture the flag assignment that's due this week.
All right, I'll have to watch the video later.
Yeah, that's right. It is being recorded. So as soon as I get that, which probably won't be tonight because it usually takes a couple hours before I get an email saying my recording's ready. So as soon as I get that, I'll post it like I did last week's, and so hopefully that'll be tomorrow that I'll post that. So you and the other two that missed can take a look at it.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks for everything, Greg.
Okay, we'll see you.
You guys have a good
night.
Thanks. Bye.